In the turbulent late 1960s, America was engulfed in chaos, torn between the Vietnam War and widespread civil unrest. The conflict in Vietnam claimed thousands of American lives, igniting protests from coast to coast, from fiery marches in Washington, D.C., and to sit-ins at Berkeley and Columbia. Dissent was amplified across the nation. Anti-war groups like Students for a Democratic Society and the Youth International Party clashed with police in tear-gas-filled streets. Civil rights leaders called for peace, racial justice, and an end to violence amid the turmoil. Cities like Detroit and Newark erupted into violent race riots, further fueling fears of an unstable nation. To the presidents at the time, Lyndon B. Johnson and Richard Nixon, this unrest was not spontaneous. They suspected shadowy foreign forces, such as Moscow and Havana, were secretly orchestrating the protests. President Johnson, reeling from the Tet Offensive, demanded answers about foreign funding for these radical movements. Meanwhile, Nixon, ever a conspiracy theorist, described the protests as a wild orgasm of anarchists sweeping across the country like a prairie fire. These suspicions set the stage for one of the darkest chapters in American intelligence history, Operation Chaos. This secret program blurred the lines between national security and tyranny, targeting domestic dissent under the guise of foreign threat elimination. The CIA, although officially barred from domestic espionage, secretly launched a vast surveillance operation. In August 1967, frustration with existing efforts pushed President Johnson to escalate surveillance programs. He instructed the CIA to initiate a new covert operation called MH-Chaos, focusing on domestic protests. The operation was overseen by James Jesus Angleton, a renowned but obsessive counterintelligence chief obsessed with moles and double agents. Richard Ober was appointed to handle the day-to-day activities of the operation. The official mission was to uncover links between protest movements and foreign governments or agencies. Targeted groups included anti-war rallies and Black Power organizations, claiming they might be influenced by foreign entities. However, the CIA's 1947 charter explicitly prohibited domestic spying, limiting their operations to foreign intelligence tasks. Despite this legal barrier, the agency proceeded, violating laws from the very beginning. They compiled 6 reports for the White House and 34 for cabinet officials, secretly expanding their reach. By 1969, under President Nixon's directives, Operation Chaos grew into an extensive domestic surveillance network. Agents were sent abroad to monitor activists and dissidents operating outside U.S. borders using physical and electronic surveillance methods. They formed alliances with foreign intelligence agencies to track American activists abroad, creating a global web of espionage. Back in the United States, related programs like HT-Lingual intercepted mail between the U.S. and the USSR. Project Merrimack aimed to infiltrate groups perceived as threats to CIA facilities. Project Resistance worked with local campus police to identify dissidents without direct infiltrations. At its height, approximately 60 officers were involved in the operation, managing a detailed computerized index. This database contained over 300,000 names and detailed 201 files on roughly 7,200 Americans. The files included birthplaces, family ties, and organizational affiliations, an umbrella over dissent. The scope of Operation Chaos infiltrated American society deeply, violating civil liberties more than anyone had imagined. For years, the American public remained unaware of this clandestine operation. It was only decades later that the full extent and implications of the program became publicly known, sparking outrage. These revelations sparked widespread criticism, reducing public trust in government and intelligence agencies. The story of Operation Chaos serves as a stark reminder of how paranoia can push a nation toward tyranny. It underscores the importance of safeguarding civil liberties against government overreach. This dark chapter in American history continues to influence debates around privacy, security, and the limits of government power. The lessons learned from Operation Chaos highlight the peril of allowing fear and suspicion to govern national security policies. Today, the legacy of this covert operation reminds us of the importance of transparency and accountability. In conclusion, the story of Operation Chaos is a cautionary tale about the dangerous consequences of unchecked government surveillance. As we reflect on this chapter, it becomes clear that the fight for civil liberties must always remain a priority, even in times of crisis. Spies among the radicals, infiltration, and intimidation. Picture this. Undercover CIA operatives posing as long-haired hippies, embedding in SDS chapters or Black Panther meetings, learning the lingo of revolution to blend in. One sensational tactic involved the CIA buying a garbage collection company to sift through trash from the Israeli embassy and Jewish groups like B'nai B'rith, hunting for subversive scraps. Mail was tampered with, phones wiretapped, and informants recruited to betray their own comrades. Overseas, agents shadowed U.S. deserters in Sweden or Japan, probing for Soviet links. Think of the Intrepid Four, Vietnam deserters smuggled to Russia by Japanese activists, whom the CIA eyed as potential propaganda tools. The targets, a who's who of 1960s icons. Civil rights giants like Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King had files opened on them. Anti-war stars such as Jane Fonda, Joan Baez, and Tom Hayden were monitored for foreign contacts. Even women's liberation groups and journalists covering the unrest faced scrutiny, leading to self-censorship and blacklisting. Activists suddenly couldn't get jobs, flagged in secret databases. In one hair-raising example, the CIA infiltrated the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Black Panther Party, convinced they were communist fronts, despite zero evidence. The operation's dragnet snared anyone questioning the war, creating a climate of fear where dissent equaled disloyalty. As chaos sprawled, it veered far from Vietnam ties, ensnaring countercultural fringes with no foreign links, like feminist collectives or even domestic Jewish organizations. Agents trained in dissident credentials posed as sympathizers to burrow deeper, while watch lists ballooned. The human toll was staggering, lives ruined by paranoia-fueled surveillance, with activists facing intimidation, job loss, and a pervasive sense of being hunted. Stories like this are what drive my passion for uncovering history's secrets. If you're as fascinated as I am by these shadowy tales of power and betrayal, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more thrilling deep dives into the untold past. Despite Helms repeatedly assuring Johnson and Nixon in 1967 and 1969 that no significant foreign control existed, dismissing communist funding as very little, the operation churned on. It finally crumbled amid Watergate's fallout, with two ex-CIA officers tied to the Nixon break-in. In 1973, new director William Colby shut it down. The big reveal came in December 1974 when investigative powerhouse Seymour Hersh dropped a New York Times bombshell. Huge CIA operation reported in U.S. against anti-war forces. Public outrage exploded, leading to the 1975 Rockefeller Commission, chaired by Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, which confirmed the abuses. Even future CIA Director George H.W. Bush admitted the improper accumulation of data on legitimate activities. Hearings by Representative Bella Abzug's subcommittee peeled back more layers, exposing the full extent of the violations. Operation Chaos didn't just spy, it eroded trust in government, proving how easily power corrupts when unchecked. It spurred reforms like Executive Order 12333 in 1981, restricting CIA domestic ops, and fueled broader intelligence oversight, yet its ghost lingers in today's debates over surveillance, from NSA programs to digital tracking. Was chaos an anomaly or the blueprint for modern overreach? What other classified operations lurk in the archives, waiting to be unearthed? If this tale left you hungry for more edge-of-your-seat exposes on history's hidden underbelly, hit subscribe on my YouTube channel. We'll chase the truth together in the next investigation.